Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pod Stallions. I am Brian, and with me, as always, to my left is Jason.
Hello, everyone.
And we are joined by Josh Izzo. And Josh has been in the licensing entertainment brand business for over 20 years, and he's worked on popular properties such as Star Wars, Pokemon, Xenowarrior Princess, Alien, Predator, Avatar, and many, many more. Those are pretty big names, Josh. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, gentlemen. This is a lot of fun. Long-time listener, first-time caller. So this is rad.
Great to have you, Josh. I've known. I think, Josh, you remember when we first met, like over a decade ago, or a little less?
It's
Comic-Con.
It was probably in person. It was probably Comic-Con, but I think we might have met when I was at Hasbro, because for a short time when I was there, I was working on their collectibles business, and I'm pretty sure that I reached out to you to like shill you some junk. Hey, buy Mr. Potato Head from me or some nonsense like that. And, when Bit Bang Pow was like doing its thing. So that might have been where it first started. And that was like early 2000s. Yeah. So it's been a while.
That sounds right. And then Fox. I mean, I know we met up at Fox a bunch of times and we talked about stuff.
Heck yeah.
So we go back a ways, and Josh is I always say this about you. I don't want to give you a big head, but Josh is one of the good guys. He's on being on the other side of how this stuff, how the sausage gets made and stuff. He's the guy you want in your corner because he loves so much stuff and knows so much stuff. You rarely get that in licensing where the person knows the property the way you do when you're coming in.
I just was arguing this today online. I worked in licensing, and so few fans in it. Like, it's so sad sometimes when you're dealing with these people.
Because it's tricky enough, but if you gotta get the secret language going, everything just takes more time. And Josh is just one of these people that has this encyclopedic brain for all this stuff that we love.
Well, that's the thing.
What he does.
The nerd culture has become popular culture. Yeah. I think we can all agree on that, coming from where we all come from and doing the things that we do and loving the things that we love. And everything that us nerds, and I say that lovingly, everything that we do want and love and want to consume, we all want it to have authenticity. And if you can't, and if you buy a book or you buy a DVD or you have the extras or you're picking up something and it doesn't feel authentic and it doesn't have that, like, it, to your point, it doesn't resonate with you like the way you want it to. Mm-hmm. It feels corny. Yeah. It's not like it feels like it's not made for you anymore. It's like, oh, I want something deeper. I want a richer experience. I want something that is actually that I can bring my passion to it. So that's, I've done that in my career. I've had a great time doing it. And I appreciate you saying that, Brian, because I hope that I can bring, when I'm doing that, like, hey, I'm going to license this alien action figure. Let's add all those little details and noodly bits, because the people that are spending $15, $29, $79, $100, $300 on these things, that matters.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to go to one point. I was working on a Beyblades, I think, once.
Yep. I remember
work.
That.
And I was doing, was it Beyblades, or it was something where you tournament fight? That's and right. I was doing a package that, you put the stickers on the front and you put it on, there's stickers on the back, and I was like, I need a graphic for the arena. And they're like, oh, we don't have that. And it's like, seems like the kind of thing you might want to include in a licensing package,
Yeah,
and I had to draw it.
For
and
real?
I just remember going like, I don't know if it was, I don't think it was Beyblades. I think it was like, I get those all mixed up because I'm not a fan. I was just working on it. But if it was Yu-Gi-Oh or Bakugan or whatever it was.
One of those, import products.
And I just remember sitting there going like, why wouldn't the arena be in all of the marketing materials?
But there's something else interesting that's happened here. I think, like everything we're sort of talking about. I mean, both of us. Josh is a little younger, but we're of the generation that we came up with all these things. Mego and Star Wars and and like the generation that grew up with this stuff has become the people that are in charge of a lot of it creatively, but also every now and then someone like Josh in the licensing area, where I don't think you would have had that encyclopedic knowledge, 30 years ago. Like we were excited about, when what was it, Kenner did the alien stuff, after the second movie or the third movie, whatever. We'd look at that now and go, that looks like nobody, it is what it is, but are excited to have it at the time. But because the people that were in charge were the ones that really didn't know this stuff. And then something happens where you get into those positions, and because we loved that stuff back then and we felt like we didn't get quite what we wanted or whatever, those are the people you want in charge of this stuff, or like to be involved in creating. I think it's a generational thing that we kind of lucked out that we sort of got to drive the ships and stuff. But Josh is also a big collector.
Oh,
and loves doing customs, brilliant customs, I might add.
You're making me blush.
And I've got, very proudly, I have not only, I believe, Josh, your first set of customs you did, or one of your first, did Thundar and Ukla and Ariel from Thundar the Barbarian.
Yep.
You very, very generously gifted those to me because you know how much I love the show. But I've got a custom from Josh of Rick Deckard from Blade Runner, a 3 3/4 inch figure that goes with the spinner that I have that came with the Japanese Blu-ray set. He did me Donald Glover Lando. From the end of Solo in the white outfit, which is
so good,
beautiful. And I've also got your you said did a set of Daft Punk figures, like 4-inch, riffing on the Power Lords stuff, and I love them. They're great. So I have some of his work in my home as well, and he's just a good dude. And he has chosen a topic for the show, which is Ray Harryhausen.
Yeah, and I couldn't have more to say on this subject, so this is great.
Sadly, we're only going to be talking about Ray Harryhausen's wardrobe and his family. Won't be covered.
And his teetotalism.
And his teetotalism and his favorite music. We will not be covering any of his work.
No, that's overdone. That's played out.
Those sweater vests are something else.
His correspondences with Forrest J. Ackerman.
Oh boy, we're just going to read. We're just going to read all of that right now.
Yeah.
So why don't we do this, and then I'll go to Josh, and then Brian, you pick up the baton. But Josh, what can you recall? What your first understanding? You might have seen something, but when did you make the connection and went, "Oh, that's the guy who did Sinbad," or "That's the guy that"?
Yeah. So totally. So I can think of a very few select kind of intellectual properties or like brands from when I was a kid, and again, I'm a little bit younger than you fellas, 44 this year, so I'm a little bit younger. So I was prime little kid age in the early to mid 80s. I was like right there, like full on little kid, Toys R Us, Saturday morning cartoons, everything. I grew up, even though you chuckleheads were doing the same thing, but you were like old and weird. But
we were popping zits and
we were talking about that.
Yeah, but I had started a protection racket at that point.
Yes. Yeah. Oh heck yeah. So just a little backstory. I grew up in a very like super media household. My dad watched TV all the time. He and his brother, who was 2 or 3 years younger than he was, every Saturday, I think like a lot of that generation, their parents were like, here's like 50 cents, go to the movies. And they basically went every Saturday to see the movies. And they quoted Marx Brothers. They spoke in movie quotes. And I know that you guys can appreciate that.
Oh, that's
awesome. You know that. You know those people. We are those people. So they would, when they get together, there's no real conversation. It's just movie quotes. Anyway,
my wife and I are mostly Simpsons quotes at this point.
There you go. Perfect analog. So growing up, my dad we watched a lot of stuff. Like I went to the movies all the time and we watched TV all the time. And, like most kids my age and guys your age, Star Wars was, of course, a like mind-blowing, transcendent experience that was like life-changing, like holy Toledo, this thing exists, OMG. But one of the other movies that like left an absolutely indelible mark on my brain was Clash of the Titans.
Oh.
That I was a fanatic for Greek mythology.
Yeah, okay. I had that phase too. Yeah.
So I think you're right. Every kid, every little kid, every boy goes through that. Like, whoa, cool, Greek. And I devoured books and I loved it.
I watched a ton of Steve Reeves Hercules movies.
Hercules, exactly. So that perfect example. But Clash of the Titans was like something I couldn't even believe this existed. From, Perseus's magical weapons to, the Clockwork Owl Bubo. And then you get, okay, giant scorpions and Medusa and Kraken, like these living, breathing things that were real. Medusa was real. She was a real character that scared the hell out of me as a kid. Listening to the soundtrack with her like creepy snake music, that was terrifying. But from there, that, seeing that on screen and being like, what is that? How do you do it? Because Star Wars, right? You had the holo chess table, but that was only on for like 7 seconds. You know what I mean?
So you made that. So your brain made that connection.
Well, no, not yet. Not yet. I hadn't gotten there yet. But like first it was Clash of the Titans, and then my dad was like, "Oh yeah, you like that? Well, here's this other thing. Here's Sinbad, and here's Sinbad, and here's Eye of the Tiger, and here, then he started like and I already knew King Kong. Here's Willis O'Brien, and he did this, and then the kind of like the concentric circles just grew out from there. But like Harryhausen started that kind of fascination with mythology and with stop motion animation and with that kind of world. And then I couldn't stop noticing, but in a good way, like Dragon Slayer, Holy Toledo, when the Vermithrax started walking through that cave. And then when you read and you guys have talked about this countless times, you go into Starlog and you're like, oh, I know that name. Phil Tippett. Oh, he Return of the Rancor. And then all of those kind of synapses start firing. But it all started with Harryhausen and with Clash of the Titans for me. And that just like that cemented that movie as one of like probably at least top 5 that I will forever and ever be like burned into my brain as like perfect kid movies that will never get old. But it was great.
Did you bug your parents for did you get all the figures and the crack?
Oh, so tangentially, it took many, many moons later. But one of the first kind of big projects. So let me back up a little bit. When I was at 20th Century Fox, I worked on the Super 7 alien figures, the ones the reaction figures.
Oh, with Frank?
Yes, I worked on that with Frank. So Frank is an old friend of mine, and I was part of that. He's great. So I was part of that, where that came to fruition.
Okay.
So because of that, I got this kind of like, I had this project that had been sitting on the back burner for years. I had started it when I was at Hasbro, and and Brian, this is exactly what we were talking about kind of in the preamble to the show before you started recording, this kind of idea of when you want to do a customizing project, and you don't feel like you either have the right resources or the right time, or it's not the right moment for you to get started. So after the Alien project, I said, now's the right moment. So to loop this back around, Jason, I actually went and I did an extended Clash of the Titans Mattel custom action figure set that were completely done with only in-era base figures.
Oh, wow.
And done like what I wanted when that movie came out. Now I'm looking at it right now in my studio. So it's Medusa, and she has a removable head. So so you can reenact that pivotal moment. Awesome. Calabas in movie accurate costume and color, and a variant with the trident hand. Andromeda, Ammon, Zeus, Perseus with red toga, an accurate sword, 2 buboes, and then I did a fakety mail away project where I offered it out to fans. I went on the internet and I went on Instagram and Facebook and to vintage partners, to vintage toy fans. I had a buddy of mine cast up an invisible Perseus,
Oh,
non-articulated, but he's wearing the helmet and he's a clear figure. So you could buy from me the clear Perseus,
I
two,
think I remember this.
two Bubo owls, one that clips onto his wrist and one that perches, and the sword to add to your Clash of the Titans collection.
I remember this now.
Yeah.
Like, why did I not get on this? I don't understand
Because
that.
you're lame, bro.
You are lame, Jason.
You're super lame.
Okay, clearly it's a consensus.
Oh, and then I also made giant scorpions, Medusa's tomb. What? I made a Medusa's tomb layer playset out of the Well of Souls, and also the two-headed dog. And it was like, it blew up the interwebs when I put it up there for a while. It went crazy. I ran that kit, that X add-on kit 4 times. 4 times people wanted it, and I had to. It was crazy. We wore the molds out, but that was one of those like things that in your mind's eye, when you're 7, 8, 9 years old, you're like, why don't I have these things?
Yeah.
Why don't these exist? Like I got the captain of the guard, I got Thallo, I got Charon, the ferryman. Yeah, you're a cool skeleton dude.
That was a cool figure.
Yeah, he's rad. Perseus and a Calabas that didn't look like Calabas from the movie.
So Josh gets his typewriter out when he's a kid. Dear Mattel.
I wrote letters to the editor all the time. But that thing, and to this day, there's still a dearth of Clash of the Titans stuff that I really want and need in my life. Same thing with just Harryhausen in general. Yeah. Like, where is the giant kind of where's the Emir? Where's the creatures from 20,000 Fathoms? Like, where is the Sinbad line with the giant golden minotaur? That's the kind of stuff that some amazing entrepreneurial company can go off and do this. Well, and because he has a legacy that transcends his movies.
There are I remember there were some statues done, or some budget kind of statues, we should hit that. But Brian, so what was your first understanding that the thing you're watching, you're like, oh, this looks like that guy. I think this is Ray Harryhausen.
Oh, I can tell you exactly, because I'll never forget it.
Nice.
CBS in the news segment. You remember those with the? I can't do the music, and it had that guy with the. Yeah. Yeah. This is Christopher, and he did a piece on Golden Voyage. That's the one with Golden Voyage is the one with Kali, right?
Yes.
He did a piece on how that was done, introduced Ray Harryhausen. I'm probably 5 or 6, maybe even younger. And I never forgot it. And I went through, and I've told this to my son and my daughter a bunch of times. I went through a period as a kid where I desperately wanted to be a stop motion animator.
Heck yeah.
And I wanted to make my own stop motion films, but I grew up in a small suburb of Toronto. Mm-hmm. And, my parents had a camera and they were like, yeah, you can use it, but I had no access to any sort of resources to figure this out. There was no books at my library.
No.
There was probably stuff I could have sent away for, in Starlog, but absolutely no idea on how to send away for things because I lived in a different country. So it was a very unrequited, thing I never did with my life. And I remember my son, we gave him an old iPhone when he was probably 5.
Cool.
And he made stop motion films with an app on it.
That's awesome.
And I just remember just encouraging the crap out of him, going just keep going, because I said to him, I am so envious. And the other thing I always wanted to be was a comic book artist.
Yep.
And my daughter would spend she's very kung fu, she'll spend hours and hours and hours practicing something. Yep. And she spent hours on YouTube studying how to draw. Cool. And she's a fantastic artist now. And it's both my kids kind of lived a little bit of the reality I wanted to live, but I didn't have the the resources to do those things. And I mean, like, so I grew up kind of wanting to be Ray Harryhausen or Dave Allen. As a kid, I knew who they were. I would read any book that involved giant monsters, or
Yeah.
And they were meant. I think Harryhausen is mentioned in one of the Crestwood books and many of the books I could get from my library. So
Cool.
I was very aware and always a fan. And I was probably 11 when Clash of the Titans came out, and I was geeked the frig out about it because I had never seen. I think the last film he did was Eye of the Tiger, Sinbad the Eye of the Tiger. That was 77, and I didn't even know that existed.
Is it the Patrick Wayne one?
That's the Patrick Wayne one. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And
that was did that get like a re-release? Because I seem to recall seeing that in the theater before Clash of the Titans, but I might be getting my wires.
Well, no, but back then, movies showed up in matinees without any rhyme or reason, right? Yeah, totally. I saw Journey to the Far Side of the Sun when I was 10 at the Brock Theater.
That's cool.
And I was watching it going, I've seen this.
Yeah.
Because it was on TV.
Yeah, like we had on WPIX 11, Channel 11 in New Jersey, every Saturday was like Monster Movie Day. Mm-hmm. And it was either Godzilla or some Toho picture, something, or something like this, some old Harryhausen picture or something. That again, that was a staple where you could watch a Saturday afternoon monster movie. It never got old ever.
Yeah, and speaking of New Jersey, this is the thing that kind of culminated my Harryhausen love. When I was 21, my friend and I got a flyer for a convention in Hackensack called Chiller Theater.
I know that very well.
And I think this was the second one or something. And Ray Harryhausen was the guest of honor.
That's awesome.
And I said I had never been very far, but I owned a car. And I said to my friend, do you want to drive all night and go to that? And
that's so cool.
We just up and left with like probably $200 between us.
Yep.
And a pack of cigarettes, and I got a speeding ticket, and we slept in the worst hotels I've ever been in my life. And we met Ray Harryhausen for 5 minutes, and that was so freaking cool. And it really changed my life in a way, because then it just gave me a taste for that.
Yep.
And I was never the same. And so I he was the catalyst for me to just like, let's drive really far into a place we've never been. That's a cool adventure. That's a fun adventure.
The thing you said, Josh, about it's so funny you said that about the Saturday monster thing. When I think of like Universal monsters or the classic monsters and that black one, I don't tend to think of Saturday afternoons for some reason. I think of late night, like on a Friday night, Horror Incorporated that ran in the Twin Cities, and you'd go down a of Faces, and then there was the movie or whatever. That's where I remember seeing all the Hammer stuff. Hammer, I remember on a Sunday now and then, and you knew it was a Hammer movie. You could just tell from the look of it and everything. But I associate Harryhausen and the Godzilla movies very much with like a monster Saturday thing on local.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's where I think I don't know if I saw the Patrick Wayne one. It's something about that in the theater rings a bell, but I don't think so. It might have been a re-release or something.
ABC played it, I remember, in the late 70s.
Yes, they played it.
And it was like a big adventure. I just remember it having Ernie Anderson, tonight. And
Sunday night movie.
Yeah, it was a Sunday night movie, and it was a big event like around 79.
Yeah, and so just like you guys saying, like when Clash of the Titans hit, I just kind of thought that, oh, here's another Harryhausen movie. Like, he's just going to keep making these movies. Mm-hmm. I want to see this next level Harryhausen stuff. And of course, by that point, I'd seen his name a million times in Starlog and, Famous Monsters and stuff like that. And I probably only had seen a handful of things that he'd done at that point. But I had Perseus, and I had Calibos, and I had the skeleton guy. But I know I had Pegasus. I had Pegasus as well.
Of course. Heck yeah.
It came out. Never got the Kraken or any of that stuff. But I rewatched it. I think it's on HBO Max or
it is. It's either Netflix or HBO Max, but it just started streaming like, I don't know, a month and a half ago or something like that. Like it's relatively new.
and I bet I hadn't seen it in a long time. It's much more. It's much less of an adventure film than a drama to me.
Heck yeah.
Like a drama, like the stuff with Zeus and the politics and all that. And I have a huge affection for it. I'm not like like you, Josh, with it. But it was nice to see it again. And it's like I remember being in the theater, like I don't know if the toys came first or the movie came first, but sort of waiting for Pegasus and like waiting for the bad guy to show up and waiting for the Kraken. Like I must have seen it all in the packaging or something. But that retroactively started to understand who he was and what stop motion was. I think with the Rankin Bass stuff.
Oh yeah, good call.
I whenever they'd say the TV would say animated holiday classic Rudolph the Red, and in my brain as a little kid was, well, animated, that means
cartoon.
That's a cartoon. That's like cell animation and Bugs Bunny and all that. Like this is not why are they? And so for a little while I think the wires were weird, and it was like I thought I was watching some new form of like cell animation. I didn't understand.
Oh really?
Reach your hand. Well, I was like 5 or whatever.
Well, yeah, totally.
Your hand in and move these things or touch these things. And I think Harryhausen is where the penny dropped, when you'd see that stuff and go, oh, I get it. Because I also did, you were talking about making little movies. There was a kid down the street that I mentioned on the show named Mark, he was like 2 years older than me, but we hung out all the time. He had everything. Like, if the new ELO record came out and it had the, cut out spaceship, like he had it that day, or if Close and Bendy or the Planet of the Apes, whatever.
That was me.
So he was
in my neighborhood.
He had everything, and he got what do you call a camera, 16 millimeter or whatever camera.
That's cool.
And we would make Star Wars movies, and we made one. I still have the photos, the set photos from Star Wars when we did called the Astro Gem, and I was Han Solo with some
naturally
not natural pistol and like a down vest, and he was Vader and some other bad guy or something, or Luke, whatever. But he mostly did it, but I would help with these Mr. Bill movies. We'd make these little Mr. Bill shorts, which is like stop motion, and then something would fall on Mr. Bill with no sound. So, we were kind of doing that without kind of knowing that I was helping with that in a small way or whatever. But then, I would love watching things like King Kong or whatever, where you'd sort of see you watch King Kong and you can see, it's brilliant seeing where the fingers are touching the fur, like in that stop motion. You can see the way the fur is moving, that hands have been on it.
It's even worse in the colorized version.
Yeah.
It's almost unbearable.
Yeah, agreed.
But there's something quaint and amazing to me about.
So you didn't grow up with I grew up with Davy and Goliath, Gumby.
No. I was
the Wombles.
Just mention Gumby. Gumby was like another one that it was like, once you understood how that works and what they were doing in terms of move a little bit, take a picture, move a little bit, take a picture. And I think it must have been during Return of the Jedi. There must have been something around there where there was either some type of TV special or behind the scenes or what have you, where they finally the kind of curtain was finally pulled open for the way that they did the go motion for the Rancor.
Yeah, they showed Tippett in doing all the
all the Phil Tippett stuff and the Tauntaun for Empire, all that that.
I remember that from the Empire special, and that's where
I've still got it. It's the Empire Strikes Back souvenir magazine.
Yes,
right. And it has a whole feature on the Tauntaun, it shows. There was this one photo, and to my memory, where the Tauntaun has got all the red molding material over it. It's got the silicone, but it looks really bloody. And it was like, what am I looking at here? But it talks about how they did that, the AT-ATs and all that stuff. It took it to a completely other level.
Yeah.
But I had already seen Sinbad and 20 Million Miles and Jason and the Argonauts, which is one that I absolutely friggin' love. I'd already seen all that stuff. And then you think about, then it went back to be well, all those dudes making the Rancor look awesome, that was their past. Like Harryhausen and that Willis O'Brien, like those were the guys that brought this to the fore for my movies, new movies.
Yeah.
And it just made those films all the better to be like, wow, your technology was janky and you were like doing it like in the, everyone was smoking and it was terrible and it was old and you're all, it's in everybody's like doing this at, with like duct tape and spit. And then you've got the dudes making Jedi like, here's a couple $1 million, go make a movie. Like it just showcases how technically sophisticated and how absolutely good at their craft guys like Harryhausen really were.
Well, here the thing that I think of when I look back on this stuff, and I've revisited some of the movies in the last 5-6 years, and I also think about Jason the Argonauts, because that was this thing as a kid. People would go, "Hey, Jason, where's your Argonauts?" Like, shut up. Like, you'd hear it so many times. And then so I was waiting to see this movie. And when it finally showed up on television, it just kind of blew my mind, the skeleton, fight and everything.
Oh, that was amazing.
But what's great about some of his stuff, he has these little moments with his creatures where they kind of almost act human. Like they're kind of, like, I forget which one of the Minotaur or someone like kind of shakes their head. Like they sort of kind of do a little shake or something, or brush something away from them. And it's like that little insane kind of detail that gave it that extra realism, and it all became part of that same soup of the Tauntauns and the Rancor and Harryhausen and Rankin Bass, and Mad Monster Party and all that stuff. That was this thing that you started to understand was an art form, like what this thing was. I mean, we knew that the spaceships in Star Wars were a different kind of special effect,
right?
So we always associated stop motion with creatures that mostly didn't exist, sort of thing. But yeah, it was, Brian, I just thought of this because I'm looking at it over on my shelf right now. Josh, do you remember that bookstore that's in Glendale? I think it's called like the something mystery bookstore or something.
Yeah. Totally.
I'm sure you've been there.
Mm-hmm.
This is going back maybe, I don't know, 13 years or something. There was going to be an event with Ray Bradbury and Harryhausen, just together talking at that bookstore. And I was on some show and I was shooting late and I'm racing to get there. And I park my car 6 blocks away and I run to get there and it's already started, and I sneak in and I come around the back. And all I'm thinking is like, I got to grab whatever books they have here. Either of them. And they had no books. And I'm like trying to be stealth and sneaking around back to the counter like, wait, are you guys saying you don't have anything for them to sign? They're like, no, we sold out of everything. And I'm like, is there anything? Look, there's another bookstore 6 blocks down. So I ran down to this other bookstore 6 blocks, found the one book they had, which was the hardcover Harryhausen book with the intro by Ray Bradbury.
Stunning book, by the way.
Grabbed the book, didn't pay for it, ran back down, grabbed the book, paid for it, ran back down, and got there and as they were sort of finishing up and met them both. And
I would have been a Chris Farley-esque mess by that point.
Yeah, totally. Yes, it would have been, the book would have been drenched. I would have stepped in a bucket. Like there would have been a rake involved somewhere.
Some bees would be following me. Yeah.
Well, the cops were out front going, "You gotta pay for that book."
And I would have hair like a troll doll. Like it would just be up and pointed.
Well, I was just like, I got back just in time where they were kind of last 20 minutes and wrapping things up and how they knew each other from way back and they've been friends forever. And then the signing, and so I got that book is signed by both of them on that.
That's awesome.
That's freaking awesome.
That is.
I have the Valley of Gwangi Laserdisc.
Nice.
Signed on my stairs. I can't play the Laserdisc anymore, obviously, but I walk by that every day, and it reminds me of that fun weekend where I got about 3 hours sleep.
Heck yeah. See, that's the good stuff. And those, and again, when you learned where, like I said, when you learned where all this stuff came from, and I just had a better appreciation for all the stuff that came after.
Yeah.
And that really just and again, and it started to make me see things differently, like the holo chess, the Dejarik table in Star Wars, like
Right.
that completely changed what that little thing was.
Well, also didn't
even Xena was appreciative for me of that.
Yes,
you know?
yes, they
Our
used,
Army of Darkness, you know.
Army of Darkness is like a near perfect film. I mean, you
but
can't.
didn't he coin wasn't it called Dynamation? Didn't he
Dynamation?
Yeah, or was that? Yeah, I
Dynamation.
think so. I think that was him. Yeah, I think so.
That was what, because
Not to be confused with Super Marionation.
That's right.
That's right.
Which often happens.
It does.
But he did he learned from, because he got on Mighty Joe Young.
Yep.
And so Willis O'Brien was on that too. He was like his kind of, was that how that went?
Yeah, kind of mentor-y sort of relationship. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So he did learn from a guy, but that guy was making it up as he went too.
Oh yeah.
But then Harryhausen comes in and makes it something else entirely.
King Kong and Mighty Joe Young are like, they were essentially proving grounds for how this thing could actually exist in the world. That was really like, that was a mind blow. If you walk into Mighty Joe Young and King Kong, whoa. That's like a real ape fighting with a dinosaur. Like how? Holy crap! Like those were both game-changing pictures. But yeah, it's pretty incredible.
And then was his first official one, Beast from 20,000. Wasn't it something to do with Bradbury too? The Beast from 20,000.
Probably.
No. Beast. Yeah, you're right. Beast from 20,000 was based on a Ray Bradbury short story. That's
right.
Oh,
what? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was getting it mixed up with the octopus movie that the name is failing me, but he could only afford 5 tentacles.
It came from beneath the sea.
There we go.
That was the next one. That was his next movie.
Yeah.
And the working title was 8 Tentacles, and he went, "Listen, I got some good news, and I got some bad."
Listen,
I just think it's funny that the budget, no, I'm sorry, we can't do 8.
But guys, the movie's about a giant octopus.
By the way, gentlemen, is Latin. Never mind.
Can't you just make two of them look really different, and then no one would really notice? They think it's one of these.
This is as a It's a pentapus.
Yeah, pentapus.
You can edit that out because this is a family show.
Yeah, right.
That's what you think.
Yeah.
So that was his first. 20,000 Fathoms was his first like official. He's the guy, right?
Yeah. Right. And and I got to go back to something we had touched upon earlier in the show is like he's one of those. We're all collectors on this call, all of us in our own ways. Either it's plastic landfill garbage that's going to eventually, ruin our children's lives, Brian. That's you and I, and we're gonna
nerd hummels,
or music, or DVDs, or media, what have you. We're all there.
The gene, yes.
Harryhausen, and his oeuvre. There has been, aside from folks like X Plus in Japan, like there has been such a lack. And I think maybe Figma too. Figma did a couple things. They did skeletons, but
like stationary sort of.
Yeah, there's been such a lack. Like I can Clash of the Titans. Gentle Giant did 3 statues. They did a Medusa, they did a Kraken, and they did a Calabas. I had all 3 of them. They were really beautifully done, but they were all out of scale with one another, and that made me insane. The Kraken was the same size as Calabas. And I was like, no, man, check, please. I'm out. This isn't cool.
You want coffee table size Kraken.
Lay it on me, brother. They also did, and Gentle Giant also did a beautiful resin and vac metal plated Bubo statue, the owl, which I still have, which is gorgeous. That is a beautiful piece, like little, jewels for eyes. That's a gorgeous piece. The Mattel stuff, of course. But then it's kind of it. There really wasn't a lot afterward. And then you've got folks like X Plus and also Figma that did they did the Minotaur, they did a couple other, they did some stuff, but it was all like onesie twosies. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's rewind just for 1 second though. And Josh, I'm sure you can comment on this, and Brian, I bet you can because of catalogs. Wasn't there plans for like a role play set or a large like talking bubo or whatever or something. Like the original line there
was a play set for the figures.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I know that when I was buying a bunch of Mattel stuff, I was more interested in the Space 1999 stuff from a former sculptor. There was a Zeus head.
Yes, I've seen it.
Yeah,
Yep.
I know the owner, or I knew who did own it. I don't know if he still owns it. So yeah, they were hoping to expand it. They were hoping it would be a Star Wars, and it kind of no offense, it kind of came and went.
It did. No, 100%.
Yeah.
So it was not a hit when it came out.
It was a hit, but it was like I think the problem is that a lot of these movies, they just didn't linger.
Yeah, good call.
Like Star Wars was an anomaly. It was something we were still talking about 2 years later. And a lot of these toy lines that we got, Star Trek or the Black Hole, or there wasn't enough to keep the momentum going after the film had left theaters. Like I think Buck Rogers toys sold well for a couple of years because there was a weekly series. But,
yeah, totally.
Yeah, but the Clash of the Titans just fell in that same thing a lot of stuff did, where movies were a risky gamble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and they had been a risky gamble up until I think around Planet of the Apes, but Planet of the Apes had like 5 movies and a TV series and
show and their cartoon. I mean, there was no. You're right, Brian. There was no derivative media to keep this thing cooking.
Yeah.
And to keep kids' mind share. But just to add on to the other Mattel stuff, I think there was a Bubo alarm clock. There was like a radio alarm clock. There was a lunchbox, a metal thermos lunchbox, and then there was also an absolutely beautiful hardcover, like story of the movie comic book adaptation, which is awesome.
So those things got the Bubo was like a store that you get when you have the plague, I think.
Yes.
That's his name was Bubo, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. So the Bubo clock got made?
Yeah, that's out. You can find that. It's like a Bubo. It's like a radio alarm clock.
Am I crazy, or were they going to make a role play, like a full scale Bubo as a toy when that first line came out? I picture that in a catalog that I've seen somewhere. Am I wrong?
I think you saw it on Plaid Stallions.
Yeah, I know, Brian. You got the catalog page there.
Yeah.
You got it. Because the chipboard playset was pretty cool. It was kind of like the Death Star, the Palitoy Death Star.
Yeah, it's just. I think they were struggling what to do with it.
Half circle.
Yeah.
Really cheap.
Yeah, there was a role play set of a helmet, a shield, and a sword proposed, and there is a full sized Bubo toy. I gotta admit, Bubo really felt
forced,
merchandisey.
Oh yeah,
like,
here's a little robot. It's a cute robot. It's like R2,
But like when I was 11, I thought, oh boy, here we go.
So it came out in. Hold on a second.
I just thought they got Burgess Meredith to train him. They thought this guy 1 and 2. Let's get him to train Perseus. He can do this.
Sugar Crisp did a promotion with that movie when it came out, and I still have my Black Hole lunchbox with a Bubo sticker on it.
That's rad. So I was 5 or 6 when this came out, and I saw it in the theater. And so, again, I was prime for every toy, all the stuff, Bubo as a cute sidekick, give it right into my veins. Let me have it right now. Mainline it right there. This is what I'm talking about. Big monsters, heroic dude. Years later, I didn't realize how absolutely amazing Judy Bowker looked, especially when she's under a trance. But we'll talk about that later. And the After Dark version of it.
There's a scene with a booby, right?
Oh, yes, there is.
There's a scene with a bottom, maybe.
I think there's a little bit of both. I think there's a little bit of both. I think there's actually Harry Hamlin bottom.
Oh.
Well, see, that's what I put in my junior high review of the film. extra star for the bottoms, 2 bottoms up.
Did you guys know that Bubo was made by everyone's favorite action figure, Pat Roach? What? He plays Hephaestus. Pat Roach, the German mechanic.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Right.
cool. I mean, it's a hell of a cast. I'm not gonna lie. That's
It is star-studded.
like that
Yeah.
movie. Like again, years later, I'm like, holy Toledo, this movie's out of control. And then what also was kind of like a fun, again, one of those Saturday afternoon movie days. I'm watching and Gargoyles is playing,
Oh wow.
Oh
right?
wow.
And
Yeah.
the lead gargoyle is Calaboss.
Oh,
And
I thought the lead gargoyle was Bernie Casey.
No, it's the same dude who played Calaboss.
Oh.
See,
They look,
here's what's weird. When I
they look
was
identical. It's the
and I
same.
saw that,
And I was like, holy crap, Neil McCarthy, same guy. And I was like,
wow.
oh my god. So then the rabbit hole, and I'm like, okay, guess I'm watching this now. And that was what was up.
See,
running Toast of London joke. Tim Pigott Smith is Thallo, and I had no idea.
And Tim Pigott Smith was in Mask of Mandragora. He's in that. Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Oh my god. It all comes back to
we're actually contractually obligated to bring up Doctor Who every episode.
It all comes back to Doctor Who with you.
I thought my ear that heard him in Clash of the Titans, for some reason, I thought it was Roddy McDowall.
Oh,
Roddy McDowall was in heavy makeup.
I can hear that.
This nasty guy. And then, of course, when you got the wide shot, the full shot where, it's stop motion. And I could kind of notice as a kid, I suppose, it was like, oh, yeah, that's not him or, whatever. But I think I had the figure first and I knew he had like one leg and a hoof, right? Isn't that how it went?
Oh, yeah. So
the
opening scene in the movie where Zeus is basically like talking trash.
Yes.
And he's like, he hunted and destroyed my all of my Pegasus and only one remains. And he's like, I'm gonna curse him. And then the silhouette, the animated silhouette goes from a man and he kind of like writhes in pain. He puts his hands up to be horns and like he mutates. That was terrifying to me as a kid.
Oh yeah. That was pretty good.
Terrifying. And he puts down the maligned Calaboss into the middle of the Colosseum, and his mom, Dame Maggie Smith, is like, oh, and he's like this horrible thing with a human foot and a hoof and the tail, and I was like, whoa, like that again. That was like, this movie is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, it was so good.
Zeus is kind of an asshole. I mean, he's like this asshole dad.
Oh,
that not only is he having affairs up the wazoo, he's doing this to his kid or whatever, and all this, like, it was. I was surprised how dark it was watching it again. Like it's kind of nasty, that whole thing with Zeus. But I mean, my God, Maggie Smith, Ursula Andress, Susanna York,
star-studded.
It might have been
Meredith. I mean, come on.
Hamlet's first movie? Was it Hamlet's first movie? Maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
I saw him everything after that. The next one was Making Love, and let me tell you, that was hard to explain to my parents.
Oh Lord, there's
still a classic.
The weapons from that movie. That again, and we all went through our Greek mythology phase. We all were kind of like enthralled, and we read all the books and what have you. But his sword, the Divine Temper, that's what it's called, with that U-shaped
Love
hilt.
that name.
The U-shaped hilt and that.
Oh, the hilt, the hilt, yeah.
And the giant kind of big medallion on the pommel, like that. In my kid brain, still probably to this day, there were 3 weapons when I was a kid.
Oh, I know.
Were like,
I know what one of them.
That were the things. So lightsaber, of course, was one. That just is like, come on, lightsaber. The Divine Temper was the other. And the glaive from Krull.
I knew you were going to say the glaive.
Jason warned me about your Krull thing.
Who doesn't love? I mean, come on. Come on.
So many vistas.
I thought if the next word out, it was like the Newlywed Game. Like, I know he's going to say glaive. I promise you, say glaive. If you had said anything other than glaive, I'd be like,
would you have lost a lot of money? Would you have lost a lot of money? You probably would have.
Izzo and put him on the phone. This isn't Josh Izzo. It can't be. Would have said glaive.
I could do it. We could have an entirely other podcast all about my devotion to Krull and how good that movie is. But that's not what we're here for, folks. That's not why we're here.
Well, that's a tease for part 2. We'll do We'll do a sequel. Just
that and Megaforce. We'll put those together.
I would actually enjoy that. That would be
change that one to Brian hurts Josh's feelings.
That would be a classic. But I thought that the little swords that came with, the figures, like the little sword that came with Perseus. I remember thinking, this is kind of cool. This is kind of a cool design to really make it like stay in his hand. Like they were trying to emulate the sword from the movie, and they kind of there, but the way it was like half and half kind of thing. But I think that was cool.
So I've heard you guys talk about this multiple times on multiple shows, and I completely relate to how you've discussed this, where we were the children that noticed when the things were off. And things were wrong. Not in like a jerky way, but in kind of like a personal, well, I that matters to me way. You know what I mean? So like, it's going to sound ridiculous. Boba Fett, when he came out, he had, the Imperial Stormtrooper blaster. Okay, fine. That's not the gun that he had in the movies. So by the time Return of the Jedi rolls around, could they have tooled up his blaster? Probably. But like that sword forever chapped my rump 1650 because it was so wrong to me, which is why I made.
That's what I love about toys now.
Because it didn't have a pointy end, like because it was rounded.
Because it did, it had the hilt itself, crossguard, faced downward, and then it had another little U-shaped one that came up from the bottom. So all the kind of shapes were there, but they were inverted. They were wrong.
Right.
And this is why when I did that kit, when I did that thing, I made an actual movie accurate sword. Because I was like, no, Perseus should have his real sword. And I painted shield gold. Like, that was one of those, like, childhood things that I was like, I love this toy line, but there's just something inherently not right here that I need to fix.
I'm glad you brought this up. I'm glad that you went there, because I think one of my earliest memories of getting a toy home and opening it up and going, fucking ripoff. This is a ripoff. Was the Pegasus. The Pegasus is a plastic horse that I would see on little girls' shelf. My cousins had collected horses that didn't. They just were broke poses. Like that's all it is. And then two rubber wings that stuck on the sides, and it was like $11.50 or whatever it was at the time.
Unarticulated, wholly like you had. So the Tauntaun had articulation. The Dewback Patrol had articulation. Like, come on, man! You could.
No. Okay, now here's the thing. I will I will give some, because I had and still have. It's one of my prized possessions. The Knickerbocker Ring Wraith and the Ring Horse, which I got when the movie came out, and I have kept them perfect. They've gone with me everywhere. They're one of my favorite things ever.
One of the most metal action figures ever made.
But that horse doesn't move, but it comes with a saddle and a thing that goes around it and a shield and
hold on, time out. And you guys will have the dates for these. I know you will, or some approximation. Did the Zorro and the Butch and Sundance and the Legends of the Old West, did those come out before or after the Clash line?
They came out.
Some came out before. The Zorro came out around the same time or after.
And Butch and 79, and those had the little button on the side that moved the legs.
Okay, so there you go. So Mattel, it's not like there wasn't a precedent for a.
But Mattel recycled every little thing. I knew that as a kid. Good like call. Mork had a Battlestar Galactica body.
Good call.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
But I mean,
it's like
every belt in that line was newly tooled. That was the thing. There was reuse in that line.
Yeah. It's just they just said Pegasus. Like they just said, grab the white horse we put out 30 years ago.
Throw a and retool it to add those wings to it.
County fairs, carve in a couple of wings, get some rubber wings, and we're done. Put it in a box.
Like and again, this is one of those things where as a kid I'm like, wait, what? So Star Wars. I've got Luke, I've got Leia, Han, Chewie, I've got Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Vader. I have a clear good guy, bad guy, childhood conflict, play pattern. Yeah. I can reenact that movie right here. I have a good guy fights a bad guy. Awesome, done. Full stop. It was rad. When Indiana Jones came out, same thing. All the, everything in our little pocket of all the kind of movie tie-ins. Star Trek, there were, here's good guys, bad guys, whatever. The fact that there was no Medusa was like such a weird omission to me, that you got the KRAKEN, which was awesome, but Medusa was the thing that stopped it. And
because to be honest with you, I think Mattel, and this is something I've been noticing lately. Mattel's figure assortments for every property they had, Flash Gordon, Battlestar Galactica, Clash of the Titans, were always weird and missing characters.
Yeah,
characters that you wanted.
That's so strange to me.
Battlestar Galactica's got to be the worst one. And I was actually going to do a video on this, but I might as well rant about it now.
Lay it on us.
You got 2 good guys and a dog.
Yep.
3 bad guys. Mm-hmm. And the 2 good guys aren't even the you got Starbuck, an old guy and a dog. And then
Apollo? I mean, come on.
Where's Apollo? Right. And then the villains, of course, they stupidly chose to do Imperious Leader, who wasn't featured very much after. Right. But, then they did Ovion, and they just kind of... So then the second wave comes around, and what do they give you? They give you 2 kick-ass characters, I think, Baltar and Lucifer, who were featured on the series.
Yeah, that's
more bad guys, a gold Cylon, and a creature that was featured in 1 episode.
But about a Cylon.
Yeah, I get you. I get you.
Bad guy. You have the main bad guy,
like an army builder kind of thing.
And even Flash Gordon, you have Flash and you have Ming. So even at the most basic level, you can have good guy, bad guy, meta conflict.
Yeah, that is true though. I bugged me as a kid. They never made Dale and they never made Baron.
Right.
Yeah.
Men are
Dale is a glaring omission.
Yeah, and I don't think men are only in. I think there are maybe 1 or 2 episodes. Lizard women show up now and then, but it is kind of a weird assortment when you think about it. And they made his boots silver. Talk about a thing that bugged me as a kid.
There you go. See,
they made his boots silver, which I can only imagine is somebody going, well, make it more spacey. Make it more they slapped silver moon boots on him or whatever it was. But yeah, that did seem to be kind of a weird Mattel thing that they would.
But I look at the line, the Clash line, and with the advent of Star Wars, okay, you have 2 humans both basically wearing togas. Okay, you have Charon, who is a dude in a robe, and all you see is a skeleton face, and then Calabas, who's a cool monster. He was a cool monster. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. My mom wouldn't buy him for me.
Because he's scary. He's a scary monster.
He looked like hell, she said.
The card art for those.
That's right. Love that.
But with the advent of Walrus Man, Snaggletooth, the cast of weirdos of Star Wars, you'd think something like, and this is maybe where Mattel fell into that trap, the Beast Man, the Lizard Woman, Daggett, all of those kind of weirdos. Were they thinking to themselves, "Oh, Star Wars has all those freaky deaky weirdos"?
I think they were, yeah.
But then then something like Medusa, which could have been a very interesting monster weirdo character, seems like a natural fit rather than Thallo, the captain of the guard.
But wasn't she kind of nude from the neck down?
Well, yeah, but you could have faked that with just snake scales. She's just a snake person, you could just fake it. But it why not? Naked snake people. That's all kids want.
I just figured.
I Google that every day.
I think she is nude, but maybe that was it. But yeah, it would have been. But then again, there's not a lot of creature stuff in the movie. Kind of there's it's really you get the KRAKEN and you have the scorpions,
but the two-headed dog. the giant vulture.
And a dog. Oh, the giant vulture. Yeah, that's a
Burgess Meredith.
Burgess Meredith. Yeah.
Come on, kid.
Does Perseus punch meat in that movie? Does he like train with a slab of meat?
Puts him in a lot and leaves him there.
There are like Harryhausen-y creatures, but they are, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, the scorpions, the giant vulture, the two-headed dog, and Medusa all would have been essentially the same kind of price point and style that Pegasus would have been. They're all kind of larger creatures. They're not necessarily human-sized.
Don't you think that the mid-price point stuff as opposed to the large play sets? Yeah, that would have been a pretty good rollout. I mean, let's go back to Hercules' Legendary Journeys. They did a figure line with figures, and then they did a larger size line with Medusa, all those characters. And you kind of look at it and go like, yeah, that's what Mattel should have done.
But don't you think, and Josh, I'm not taking anything away from your love of this, because I enjoyed it then and I enjoyed it now. But watching it again, I felt like it was one of these strange sort of like, I don't remember the studio, but I think they probably, I mean, everybody sort of, if it was fantasy or, sci-fi related, everybody, the watermark was Star Wars, obviously.
Oh, they were trying to make a Star Wars, but Greek.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not hero's journey, good versus evil.
Yeah, it's not a mile a minute.
Nope.
It does not move quickly.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. It takes its time, and
everybody that signed on was like going, "Oh, ka-ching! This is going to be like a Star Wars, and I'm getting in on this thing because it's going to be huge." So I feel like it also kind of it's sort of visually, and you look at the photos or the designs or whatever, it's all there. But then the finished package it kind of takes its time. I mean, it really kind of takes its time to get going. So I wonder if when the finished product came in that it was, I mean, I think, and even in comparison to Harryhausen's other stuff, like what's the one with Patrick Troughton? Is that the one? No, Tom Baker's in the one before.
Tom Baker's in my favorite Harryhausen film, which we should just do a whole episode on, is Sinbad movies.
Sinbad,
but he's in the Golden Voyage.
Golden Voyage, and then Eye of the Tiger 77, right?
Yeah, Eye of the Tiger 77. I think Golden Voyage is 74.
I want to say 73.
73.
Yep.
And that features my favorite Sinbad and John Philip Law, and of course it's got Carolyn Monroe in it.
Yep, good call, dude. Good call.
Yeah.
But that even those move faster than Clash of the Titans.
Those are.
No, I would actually say Eye of the Tiger is slower than Clash of the Titans.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Golden Voyage feels like an old pulp film, and it feels very serial-esque, and that kind of moves. But Sinbad, Brian, I agree with you. It has that same kind of tenor, that same kind of like slow adventure film.
Eye of the Tiger? You mean?
Eye of the Tiger. Yeah. In fact,
Brian,
I prefer Clash to Eye of the Tiger.
Brian, isn't Patrick Troughton in Eye of the Tiger?
I know he's in Jason and the Argonauts.
He is?
Yeah. I believe he's the old blind beggar that they keep stealing.
Yes.
The little gremlins keep stealing his stuff.
You have to watch that again.
Yeah, I think Patrick Troughton is in because you had to have a Doctor Who actor somewhere.
Yeah.
John, I think you're right.
It's not our fault that everything comes back to Doctor Who.
You know what? I'm here for it. I too am a Doctor Who fan. I mean, there's no doubt. But my Who
Oh,
fandom diverges greatly from yours because I'm a child and you are both old grandparents.
Here we
I
go.
prefer to be called Pop Pop.
In fact, I think the way Baker told it for years was he got the part. Tom Baker got the part because that Sinbad movie was playing in Leicester Square.
Cool.
And
he got the part because he begged for a job.
It kind of, exactly. But somebody, his name came up because the letter was, all this stuff. And then someone said, well, what's he like? And they were like, well, he's in this movie right up the street. And then they went and saw the Sinbad movie.
Barry Letts took everyone to the movies on the taxpayer's dime as Tom Baker's.
So good.
Harryhausen, the way Harryhausen kind of is partially responsible for Tom Baker becoming the greatest.
He is partially responsible.
I gotta say, Harryhausen is also responsible, to a degree, for my favorite Star Wars character, Chewbacca the Wookiee, because Peter Mayhew played the Minotaur in Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger.
That's right.
Boy, so, there's a lot going on there, eh?
Wow, that's right.
Harry is my favorite Star Wars character.
See, I thought it was Proust, but you're
Jar Jar?
right. It was
no, not Jar Jar. It was
Jar Jar.
It was Peter Mayhew as the Minotaur, and that was like that was one of those kind of, again, those circuitous things where like, wow, you're a tall dude, we need more tall dudes. He was in this thing. Why don't you call that guy because he's tall and he's done creature effects, and then that's how they got Peter Mayhew.
See, now this is a great way to sort of connect it and bring it home a little bit. Let's talk about the generations of directors and the specific genres and whatever that have been influenced by Harryhausen, like directly, that say, if not for him, Spielberg and
heck yeah. Well, I mean, we're right now, we're literally in the season. My family, we're gonna watch it in 2 weeks. But like Henry Selick's Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yep.
Like Holy Toledo, like Burton, Henry Selick, that those guys alone would not be where they are if not for Harryhausen.
Oh, yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get the sense that all the Pixar guys love his stuff.
Oh, totally. All the guys up at Leica, I mean, Coraline, all that, the entire Leica universe owes its existence to these guys, to like the Willis O'Briens and to the Harryhausens of the world. I mean, that's
Jackson, like Guillermo, aren't they big? They're big.
Harry. Yeah. Oh,
massive. Yeah.
I mean, he's one of those guys that everybody has seen something and has a reference or knows or knows a movie or has seen a scene or has seen a still or something from his movies. Yeah. And it's all locked up in the back of their heads. Like, once you say it, Ray Harryhausen, he did that. Don't you know he Clash of the Titans or that movie or that Sinbad? Like, everyone can call something up and be like, oh yeah, I remember watching that as a kid, or oh yeah, that movie. Or to your point, Jason, like full on, like that inspired me to go make stop motion animation. Right. Like that it is what it is in our world now. He was, one of the grandfathers of that medium and changed a lot.
Isn't it kind of a general fact that, I mean, you can improve on the technology, you can improve on the number of faces you swap out to put in to say 2 words or whatever, but the core of stop motion hasn't really changed much from his days, right? I mean, it's essentially, a wire armature with something on it, and you have a bigger team. Obviously, he's, like you said, he's doing it with masking tape and bubble gum, gluing it together and stuff. But the actual essence of what he did, isn't it still kind of the gold standard, like the way it was done? There's no better way to do it than what was done.
It's the actual sculptures are made differently now. So they're, instead of them being like, made out of asbestos and, cancer causing articles, they're all, foam latex. So things move easier and the armatures won't be so, are sturdier. But yeah, it's essentially, I move my little guy, take a still frame, move it some more. Computers can't do fill-ins on this. So It is still the exact same technology that it was in the 1970s.
And those movies were like a treat when they came on TV. Like, they were special.
Good call.
When Valley of Gwangi came in, I remember my parents, we were Catholics, we went to church. And the movie for the Sunday afternoon was Valley of Gwangi, and it was like the happiest thing to happen to me. Like, oh my God, what a wonderful lottery that was. And I really seriously miss this kind of filmmaking. CGI is nice, but it's not quite the same for me. No, that remake of Clash of the Titans is one of the most forgettable things I've ever witnessed.
Pack up your stuff and get out. Don't ever talk to me again.
Yeah.
But no, isn't that funny we had these shows that came on in reruns or Saturday Sundays or whatever, like, you know, we latched on to Star Trek or, you know, whatever the things were. But to have a full movie that would be on that was, you know, like a Godzilla or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because we watched everything, you know, before.
I devoured it all. You guys have talked about this countless times. Like there was no internet.
So when something like that came on,
all of it.
Yeah, it was just like you sat through the commercials. You never went to the bathroom. You just sat there.
Bro. You said it.
Look it in because this is it. I have to see this thing, and it was a very good feeling to see that stuff, to grow up with that stuff and understand who he was and, you know, what he did and everything. And he, you know, like I said, I watched. What was I watching recently? It was the what's the Bigfoot one that Leica did?
Missing Link.
Missing Link.
That was great.
Wonderful movie. And they had some making of stuff, and just the time it takes for this stuff and the patience these people have to, you know, to do all this stuff. But it kind of is the same thing that he was doing, only he was kind of a, you know, one-man show with the whole thing.
Yeah,
you know?
Agreed.
Extraordinary. Did he win a special Oscar for Clash of the Titans, or did he win an Oscar?
Don't know.
Ray Harryhausen won a special Oscar, I believe, in the 1990s. I remember I was flipping channels, and all of a sudden it was this montage of Ray Harryhausen stuff, which made me stop. And he was accepting a special Oscar, so he did get an honorary Oscar, and I think that was, gosh, when was that? Let me pretend.
What's great about him too is that really you look at a guy like him and a guy like Ray Bradbury.
1992.
Not only did they love this stuff, you know, and sort of took to it, but they truly were nerds. I mean, they were like, weren't they in some Los Angeles science fiction
club?
Yeah,
like
totally.
And that's where they met Forey, I think. And
that's how Forey met. The two of them, and they were actually quite good friends.
They were the precursor to, you know, they fanboyed out about stuff back then.
But I mean, they were. If you were to do that, those were the guys that were doing it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no one else in the industry, in the world, that was like, you're making monster movies playing with toys. You know what I mean? Like, you taking that's not high film. That wasn't high cinema. That was, you're making kids pictures. So they found the us of the you know, their people that they could commiserate with, that understood and spoke, that they had their own secret handshake. And that was cool, because, you know, that begets new ideas and new stories and new technologies. And that's how those kind of relationships grow and foster. You know, like me meeting Jason and talking about crazy stuff like that, and our shared love of Twin Peaks and this and the other thing, and me meeting Brian and talking about things like Star Wars and Mego. Like, that's how all these relationships grow and are fostered.
Yeah.
It's our secret handshakes, and they had that back then with these movies, which was amazing.
Yeah, it's just like bonding. You're bonding over something you love, and that's how friendships are made. You're absolutely right.
But what's cool about, when I think about that, like my mom, my mother was into sci-fi, you know, still is, but like, she was reading Asimov and Heinlein and Herbert and all this stuff, you know, in the early 60s and, you know, late 50s, early 60s. And I always think, you know, who was she talking to? How could she have had a friend within a country mile that would any reference for what she was talking about? So these guys back then, it's like they found, there couldn't have been a ton of those guys walking around that were into the
Maybe that's why geek culture is so popular now, is the internet, is we all can find someone to talk to about it.
Good call.
Yeah, I think so.
And I appreciate the fact that I found guys like you that share these passions and are, you know, doing this to say, hey, I know that, you know, you're giving a signal boost to all of those guys out there and girls out there that are like, I love these things too. Come, you know, there are people out there that want to talk about what the influences are, how these have changed us as people, how these have taken us in new directions in our careers and our personal lives. And Brian, I know you mentioned that, you know, you and your wife have this unironic shared love of Xena Warrior Princess and all that stuff, like how that changes people.
It's mildly ironic.
Oh no, it has to be totally unironic.
Yeah.
But it's no, I agree. It is the internet. One of the wonderful things it's done is how people, the good side of it is people finding each other in a way that would have taken a lot longer, back in the day. And it's become more inclusive with more people that are into more things and whatever. All right, so let's wrap this up. Let's leave it with this, Josh.
I'm gonna put a pin in this. I think we should do a follow-up Harryhausen episode. What do you guys think?
I'm game always,
because we kind of stuck to Clash of the Titans, and I think there's more in his milieu.
Only if we can get some Glaive conversation.
Oh yeah, we have to throw Krell in there, because if we can't talk about stop motion without talking about the Crystal Spider and the Beast, because that just has to happen.
We'll do.
Does that mean I have to finish watching Krell?
Yes, now. Yes, yes.
And then all the things Harryhausen-esque in all these other movies we can talk about.
Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome.
But Josh, why don't you tell us what would be your all-time favorite Harryhausen creature from a Harryhausen film?
Oh, it's Medusa. Full stop. Yeah, right. She just everything about that whole scene, from music to cinematography, lighting, her menace. I mean, honestly, if you think about it, Medusa's only on screen for like 3.5 minutes. Truly, she really is. It's not long, but it is so perfectly built and made. And also, she basically, she saves the movie from beyond the grave. Like, she's already dead, and she still saves the day. That creature just blows my mind. Brian, you?
I would have to go with the I don't know if it's Shiva or Kali from Golden Voyage. That blew my mind when I was a kid, and it continues to do so. It's just, that is my favorite Harryhausen film.
Awesome.
And that's got to be it. And there's a lot of cool creatures in that one.
Oh heck yeah!
Yeah, my favorite creature from a Harryhausen film is Ursula Andress, actually.
Excellent choice, sir.
And that's it. Check, please.
I'm not sure she's a special effect, but
yes, she is. In my house, she is.
I even had the Marvel comic of that Golden Voyage.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
This has been a blast, Josh. I'm so glad we could.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and I'd love to do it again.
We will absolutely do this again. Thank you for being on. Thanks for being such a big fan of the show and digging it and always telling me when you do. Yeah. I appreciate it.
Heck yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Are you guys gone?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. Hang on. I'm just going to stop recording.